Hello, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Lauren.
And this is I've Got Guts, a podcast about living and thriving with chronic illness. Let's be real, it is really hard.
But it doesn't have to be. You are not alone.
With this podcast, we want to create a community and a space to be able to talk about the tough stuff
and laugh along the way.
The idea for this podcast stemmed from us trying to find one for ourselves to listen to, but not being able to find anything that didn't make us more sad or frustrated.
Our goal is to talk about the hard stuff, but also talk about how to get through it, be positive, have a full and productive life, and thrive.
But before we get started, just so we are clear, we are not medical professionals. We are just here sharing our personal experiences.
Awesome. Here we go.
I'm laughing already because I know what your thorn is. So I think we should start with thorns today, and I think you should start.
Okay, perfect. My thorn happened yesterday, right? This was just only yesterday. So if you've been following along, then you know that we get our hair done by Grayson. He comes to the house, and we have like a hair party with snacks and drinks and whatnot. Yeah. And this week, we're on break, so we love when we can do our hair.
Yeah. And there's four of us, so we have a new addition now, and this was her first time. This is Liz's first time hosting.
Yeah, so Liz is hosting, and we're at her house, and what did we get there? Like 11, and she did a nice, yummy brunch, and we had some mimosas, and the kids played. It was super fun. So where her kitchen table is, it's like that round table, and you can see right out front.
Yeah.
So where I was sitting, I could see my car, and when I arrived, obviously, there was like 5 cars in the driveway, so I parked in the street, and we're sitting there, and at this point, Grayson, we were
pretty much done.
We were pretty much finished.
I was the last to go, and my head was in the sink. Of course, I missed everything.
She really did miss it all. So I'm sitting there, and I'm watching. I'm like, oh, you know what it was first? Our attention was looking at her neighbor because Luke, her son, goes over and gets the mail. Like, what a good...
She pays him like $20 a month to get her mail.
Right, which is like so sweet. So we were looking over there. I think Luke just went there. So we see the garage open. I'm like, oh, there's your sweet little neighbor. And she's backing out of her driveway, and she's going down. And you know, what are they, the snowplow things?
Yeah, so people like the snowplows know where to plow.
Yeah, it's like the long orange stick. So does she not back out
and hit it?
Not even hit it. She like rolls over the stick and then reverses back up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she is erratic. And I'm like, she better not hit my car. So Laurel and I are watching. Steph's in the sink. Grayson's
watching too, because there's a window above the sink.
And Liz is kind of next to me, so she's watching. And I'm like, oh boy, imagine if she hits my car. Or maybe Laurel said it. And there she goes. She's going. She's going. And does she not ram into my car?
All of a sudden, I hear you guys screaming, she's going to do it. She's going to do it. She's doing it. She's doing it. And it felt like that scene from Bridesmaids where she poops in the street in the wedding dress. Like, she's doing it. She's doing it.
And she did it. I'm like, and then it was like, it was almost like slow motion in a way because you saw my car rock. So we knew she hit it. But the best part is that she hit it and she peels away and drives in somebody else's grass as she leaves.
She leaves and leaves her garage door open.
Yes, and we're like dying and just crying, laughing. And of course, this is my car, so maybe I shouldn't be laughing that hard. Steph's in the sink being like, what is happening? So finally she comes up and we're all dying. And I feel like it was at a moment where I'm like, well, we got to go out and look.
So you and Laurel went out to look.
There's just so much salt on the cars because we've had a ton of snow recently. So we're like trying to look. I'm like, I think there might be scuff marks, but I'm not sure. And whatever else. So we come in and we're like dying. And does she not get home? She pulls into the driveway. And then she comes, she inspects her car. We're like, she's inspecting her car. She's inspecting her car.
We're watching this whole thing.
I'm like, is she going to come over and be a good human and to say that she hit my car? So then she does walk down the driveway, looks at my car, inspects my car, but then walked back up her driveway. And then eventually I'm like, guys, she's coming towards Liz's house.
So at this point, Liz is like bright red, and I think she's plotting in her head, like, okay, when can we put the house up for sale? Laurel is slinking under the kitchen table.
These are our two friends who hate confrontation and anything like that in any phase or any situation, I should say. And Liz is like, she's coming to the door. I'm like, well, you have to come with me. This is your house and your neighbor. So Liz opens the door and she was so sweet.
She was, but she had a very thick accent.
Yes.
Which made her sound just a little scary.
Yes, but you know what? She was a sweet little woman with a kind of a little bit of a scary accent. And she's like, and I just said it for her. I'm like, we saw you hit my car.
I know. You just threw it out there. And Grayson, smacks my head and she goes, she just said it.
And then she was very apologetic and felt bad. And I'm like, I guess I didn't park in the best spot. And
she yelled at you.
And then she yelled at me. She's like, you really didn't park in a good spot. I'm like, whoa. But in the end, we were joking back and forth. I'm like, listen, there was a hair night where I actually backed into Sean's car in my own driveway. Yeah. So I made her feel better. Like, I've been there too, and it's okay.
But then you threatened her because you were like, I know where you live.
But I meant it to be more of like a funny joke. Like, she's like, well, let me know if there's any damage. And I was basically like, I'll take my car to the car wash. We'll get it cleaned. And then I'll see if there's any damage. But I didn't think there was going to be. And she's like, okay, let me know. I'm like, yeah, I will. I know where you live. But it didn't mean to come out like,
was so funny.
But so anyway, there's always something I feel like crazy that happens at Grayson, days or nights.
And I said to Liz, like, you got it out of the way on your first one, which means the rest of your nights will be fine. Because we've all had a crazy experience, whether it's like a dog running away or a appendix that needs to come out. Like, we've all had our crazy experiences.
We really have. So Liz got hers out of the way. So it was definitely an eventful day yesterday. And my car, I took it for a car wash after, and it was totally fine.
So it was maybe going to be potentially a big thorn, but it turned out to not really even be that much of a thorn. More of a funny story.
And more of a funny story that we're still laughing about today. So what was your thorn, Room?
My thorn's not funny at all, actually. So, I'm doing the whole fertility thing, and they have me on progesterone and estradiol and all these other things. I'm just not sleeping. So, I'll fall asleep, and then 2-3 o'clock in the morning, ping, I'm wide awake, and I can't fall back asleep. And I don't fall back asleep until 5:30. And then it just so happens the last couple of days I've had to set my alarm to get up for things. So, I could have caught up on the sleep, but I've had to set my alarm. So now I'm just this, I feel like I'm this walking zombie. I'm going on 4 days of 3 hours of sleep.
That's the worst.
You know me, I could sleep 10 hours.
I know.
So I'm just on the struggle bus. I'm real tired.
It's the worst. But thankfully, we still have 2 more days of break. So hopefully you can get some caught up on sleep tonight and Saturday night.
That is fully my plan.
Because I'm going to steal your word. It has been a glorious break. Yes, I feel like we say glorious all the time.
Actually, we can jump into our roses because that's actually my rose.
All right, talk about it.
So I had my IUI on the very first day of break, and then I've done this 2-week wait, and it's been the most glorious 16 days ever. See? I had to say it. I had to. It's just been between the holidays, which are the happiest time for me. Other than that, I just feel like I got some house projects done. I cleaned out an entire linen closet, which felt so good. We got some quotes on maybe getting our basement partially finished. I thought about what the nursery might look like if we have a baby. And I caught up on Virgin River, which was come on, amazing. It was the wedding season. I love, how much I love weddings. So I've just been able to really do me for 16 days. I finished a book. I started a new book that I'm obsessed with. So many good things have happened over these 16 days, and I cannot believe we literally only have 2 days left.
I know, it's so crazy.
It was
so
needed.
Crazy. Yes, and that's the thing. It is needed so much because as teachers, we're on all the time, right? And it's just it can be tricky and it can be challenging, right? To take time for yourself to do these things. So these breaks are sacred times where we can really take care of ourselves.
Yeah, and people have a lot of, oh my God, you got 2 weeks off. Listen, you do not know what we do on a daily basis, man. Yeah. We needed that 2 weeks off.
Yes, just like the kids do, right?
Yeah.
And I always say to Sean, I'm like, we all picked our careers, right? And ours just came with this built-in breaks for everybody involved.
Exactly. Well, it's also nice if you have kids because you don't have to pay for daycare. You're home with your kid, watching your kid for free. I mean, it's a nice perk.
It is. I love my breaks with Connor. We always have just some special adventures and lots of fun things we do. So it is a very special time. And I want to savor these now while he's young and wants to hang out with me.
Mom, it's not cool to hang out with you anymore.
I went to grab his hand today, like walking into Wegmans.
Oh, no, did he say no?
Nope, he still holds it.
Oh, thank God. I was going to be really sad and I might have cried if you said he didn't want to.
It makes my heart so happy because Sean is not a hand holder. And if I do try to hold, I can't even talk, hold Sean's hand, he puts it up in the sky or like we're going to announce it to the world. So
Anthony's such a hand holder. That's all we do.
There we go. So Connor and I are just hand holding buddies until I'm not cool anymore.
I love it. What was your rose?
Okay, so my rose is actually a Christmas gift, and I got a wonderful gift this Christmas. And my favorite, though, is a wine stand that I got from my brother-in-law, Scott. And he knows my love of wine, and red wine is my favorite. And of course, I mean, I've been drinking wine for years. I'm such a wino. But recently I fell in love with a box of wine. It's I think it's the Boda box.
Yes, Boda box.
The Cab Sauv. It's so good. And it's great because you can open it and it'll stay fresh for 4 weeks versus if you open a bottle, you're committing to like drinking it within the day or two. And unfortunately, I'll just have to drink it. We can't waste the wine. So a box wine is just really perfect for my lifestyle of having a nice little small drink with dinner. So anyway, Scott, amazing gift giver. He always gives me the best wine gifts. He gave me a stand. So it's a stand for your boxed wine.
No, that's very thoughtful.
It is fantastic. It looks so super cute on my like bar situation. And then you don't get a mess underneath with the dripping. That. So thanks, Scott.
I'm very, very impressed with his gift giving this year.
So was I. Yes, he knows me very well.
He does. So we want to kind of throw in something new.
Yes, something new.
So we want to start doing like either shout outs or reviews of the week.
Yes, because we're getting so many amazing reviews, texts, feedback, conversations with people just pointing out things that they're loving, giving us feedback, and it's been amazing. So thank you for everyone who's been sharing.
Yes. And you never know when you might get a shout out or we might feature your review, but naturally our first time doing this, our shout out has to be to our biggest fans, our moms.
Yes.
So Mary Ellen and Tony, they listen to every episode. Like I know my mom wakes up on Monday mornings.
Yes.
And like 4 a.m., she puts it on. She listens to the whole episode. She texts us. She comments. She sends reviews. Like she loves them. She's like, I laughed or I cried or you guys are amazing.
Yes.
So of course, you know, we have to say something like your mom's your biggest fans. I think in my family, my mom is the only one who's listened to every single episode.
Oh my God, I love it.
So thank you, Mom. I love you.
Yes. And for my mom, Mary Ellen, or as many of you know her as Wabi, and that's the story for a different time why Connor calls her Wabi. But I'm going to read the text that she wrote.
Okay, read it.
She sent it to both of us. I feel like it was the day our first podcast got released. And she said, I'm so proud of you both. Love the podcast. I had little tears in some parts. You both sounded so professional. It flowed so nicely. You are definitely going to help those who can relate with your health issues in an informative, sympathetic, fun way. Love you both. So happy for you in this new journey in podcasting.
Aww.
Like, Mom, love you. Like, honestly, both Tony and my mom, you guys just give us that inspiration we need. Yep. And of course, we know, being your daughters, you're going to love anything we do. Yes. But just your genuine support and comments means a lot to us. So love you.
Love you. All right,
let's kick it out. We're heading into a migraine episode.
Yeah, but 2 different kinds of migraines.
I'll let you start.
So a few episodes ago, I called it like an esophageal migraine, but technically it was an abdominal migraine. Yep. And not a lot of people know that that's even a thing. So I did want to talk about it a little bit today. So according to the National Library of Medicine, an abdominal migraine they're unprovoked episodes of central abdominal pain associated with migraine symptoms such as sensory hypersensitivities to light and sound, vomiting, nausea, acute headaches, and general pallor. And while it's common in children, it's considered a rare diagnosis in adults. And I did a lot of reading up on this, and it's a common childhood disease that rarely presents in adulthood. So naturally, I would get it.
Obviously. Is the word rare in it?
Yes.
It's yours.
Extremely rare. I think the statistic I read was 1% of adults get abdominal migraines.
I mean, at this point, Rome, you probably should go play the lotto because you're hitting the lotto.
Seriously, I
digestively. Play the actual lotto.
And so they're thought to be brought on by a disturbance in the gut-brain axis. Now, when I read that, I was like, I got to look up what that actually even means.
Yeah.
So that is basically, it refers to an imbalance in the communication pathway between the gut and the brain, where signals sent from the digestive system to the central nervous system become disrupted, potentially leading to symptoms like digestive issues, mood swings, and altered cognitive function. So essentially, it's when the gut feeling and the brain aren't properly communicating with each other.
Ah, that makes sense.
Which does make sense, especially with what I was going through at the times that I got them. Like everything was just so off in my body.
Right. Yeah.
So I've experienced them only twice in my life, and thank God.
Mm-hmm.
The first time was the worst. I was locked in my bathroom for 72 hours.
Same.
No lights, no phones, no books. It was just me, my dog, my toilet, a pillow, and a blanket.
So crazy.
Like sounds hurt,
Mm-hmm.
lights hurt, smells hurt.
Really? Even smells?
Moving hurt. So like every time I had to move, like let's say I had to pee or like get up to call someone to come walk Rena, I violently threw up. And like by the 20th hour, I had nothing left to throw up. So I was dry heaving every 20 minutes. And like, I don't know if a lot of people know like how painful dry heaving is, but it's like your body is trying to throw something up, but there's nothing coming.
Right,
so like
right.
the pain that comes in your back and your chest and your throat, it's like, it is the worst pain I've ever experienced. But I do have to give another little shout out to my cousin Ryan, who owns Stellar Stone and Tile in Rochester, New York. And he is quite literally the best in the business. And during COVID, he redid my bathroom for me. Mind you, my bathroom used to be like brown and yellow tile. Like the oldest, nastiest.
Like 1965.
And yellow. It was yellow. It was so bad. So he redid my bathroom for me, and it is like my haven. We'll have to throw some pics up on our socials because you just have to see it. Like, and I don't even know if he knows how much that meant to me, because when I am that sick, I now have a place to go that's pretty and updated and beautiful, and I don't mind being locked in there for like hours.
Pillow, blanket, dog, all the things.
It's so pretty. I'll be like throwing up, and then I look up, I'm like, oh, I love so nice.
I love my light fixtures, my tile.
Okay, back to abdominal migraines. They do not cause head pain like a typical migraine. Like the pain comes from your stomach. And I also did some research, and according to the Cleveland Clinic, they do believe there's a connection between head migraines and abdominal migraines, and over 65% of children who experience abdominal migraines have a first-degree relative, so like a biological parent or sibling, with migraine headaches.
Really?
Isn't that interesting?
That is really interesting.
But I have no family history of any type of migraines, and I've only in my entire life had maybe like 5 migraines.
Right.
Whereas you have a history. But but Connor's never
had any. Yeah, so interesting.
Yeah. So, and it says approximately 1 to 4% of school-age children have abdominal migraines, and researchers think that this estimate is low because the condition can go undiagnosed. It's really hard to diagnose. There aren't any lab or imaging tests that can identify them. And then they have to rule out everything else. They have to rule out IBS or cyclic vomiting syndrome or ulcers or Crohn's. You know what I mean?
Right.
So next time your kiddo complains of a bellyache, like don't be so quick to brush it off, because kids don't always have the best way of describing pain like we do.
Right.
They can't, like, it's sharp, it's stabbing, it's achy, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So what can you do for them? Not much.
Right.
You can take over-the-counter medicine. You can wait for symptoms to pass. Basically, like if a kid has it and it's cyclical for them, there are like 3 or 4 medicines that they can use, but I didn't read too much about them because obviously, like I said, I've only had them twice in my life. There are ways that you can avoid them, and I'm sure some of these might parallel with how you avoid actual migraines. So like manage stress. If you're prone to motion sickness, like avoid it as much as possible. Make sure to get quality sleep. Avoid visual triggers like flashing lights. And if you have any known food triggers, avoid those. Use essential oils, do yoga. Just kidding. Just kidding.
We know you love yoga and oils.
But yeah, so in a nutshell, like it's a very, very rare thing for adults to get. And I've only experienced it twice in my life. Hopefully I never, ever, ever experience it again because it was wholly awful.
Oh, gosh, it sounds terrible.
Yeah.
And I honestly never heard of it until you mentioned it recently. So, because this leads into what I'm going to talk about today, I'm actually moving up the body away from the old digestive tract distress, and I'm headed to my head.
Of course.
Of course, my brain.
Something's broken everywhere.
It is. Now we're just looking at the brain. And just my journey with headaches that eventually developed into chronic migraines. So, for me as a kid, I would get a ton of headaches all the time, and it was pretty normal for me. So my mom would always give me ibuprofen, or I actually remember as a kid, there was a pill you could put under your tongue and let it dissolve, and it would help with headaches. And I wish I knew what it was, but I remember it tasted so yucky, but it worked. So I'd be like, Mom, I need the tongue medicine.
I feel like I took that when I was a kid.
So I don't know if it was like an ibuprofen Tylenol, if it was more of like a natural supplement. I'll have to ask my mom.
Yeah,
and see
that
what she
sounds
says.
familiar.
Yeah, so I always got a lot of headaches. That was very normal for me. Both my mom and my Aunt Kathy have chronic migraines, where the only relief is with Relpax. And Relpax is a medicine from the tryptophan family. So if you have migraines or headaches, you probably take some type of pill on the tryptophans. And my mom's migraine started when she was 35, and my grandma also got migraines, but that was back in like the 60s, 70s, 80s. And back then, they didn't have Relpex or the elatriptans then. So I know my mom would tell stories about my grandma just being in bed for like 2 to 3 days, the lights off, you know, a cloth over her eyes, the ice pack, and she like literally could not come out of the room. It just lights and sounds and everything bothered her. She would vomit and get sick. So poor grandma. But when you think about migraines, and I didn't realize this until my mom was like, well, your aunt has it and I have it and grandma has it. It's hereditary. And migraines are a very complex disease that can be inherited in families. And the genes that are associated with migraines are often involved in regulating blood flow and the activity of nerve cells in the brain. So they are genetic, and it can, it can be hereditary. So for me, what was a little different is my headaches began getting worse when I was in my early 20s, and they were just debilitating. Like I went from taking Tylenol to ibuprofen to finally Excedrin migraine. And the Excedrin did work for a few years. So did caffeine.
I remember the caffeine kick.
So I would have a cup of coffee, or I would have like a Coke or anything with caffeine with the Excedrin migraine. It would really work. But the older I got, the worse they became. And eventually I needed to move to taking Relpex as well because it worked for my mom and my aunt. It also did work well for me. And when I would get them, it would always start in the back of my head and my neck and like come up over the top of my head and then settle behind my eyes. And I was also getting tension headaches. So those started in my neck, shoulder, and would go into a headache, but they would go away with ibuprofen. So basically, if I took an ibuprofen and I felt better, it was a tension headache.
Right.
If I took ibuprofen and I did not feel better, it was a migraine. So that's kind of how I
distinguish.
Yeah, between the two. So then things started to get worse. I was getting migraines almost every day, and insurance would only give me 12 pills a month.
Oh, God, I remember that.
Yeah, so it'd be like I was like rationing my pills of like...
You had to like try and borrow some from your mom, but then she needed them.
Right, it was just like, and then I would call and ask the insurance company if, I could get more, and my doctors wrote letters. But eventually, I was running out of pills and suffering, and that is when my primary care referred me to a neurologist. And I needed a different therapy route to manage my migraines, that would be covered. So migraines turn to chronic migraines when you have them 15 or more days a month. And I was falling in that category now. It was almost every day of the month. I woke up with some type of headache, and it was crazy. I honestly don't know how I functioned back then.
I don't know how you went to work every day.
It was crazy. So I was diagnosed with chronic migraines, and it's called occipital neuralgia, which is a rare neurological condition that causes pain in the back of the head, the upper neck, and behind the ears or eyes. So the pain can feel like shooting, shocking, throbbing, burning, aching, any of those, which I was feeling all of them. And it often starts in the neck and spreads upward. So for me, this occipital neuralgia would start and it would trigger a migraine. So it was starting in my neck, shoulder, and then, just developing there. So I was finally getting answers to why I was getting migraines in my early 20s when my aunt and my grandma, my mom didn't until later. I had this other neuralgia thing happening.
Of course you did.
Right.
Something rare.
Something rare? Oh, let's sign up Lauren O'Reilly for that. So for me, I was in a lot of pain. And the next 6 months, the neurologist was trialing different meds for me to take daily. We were looking at like a more of a proactive approach where I would take something, and the whole thought process was I would try it for a whole month and it would just break the cycle. So it's not something I could take to relieve it in the moment, but it was something that eventually would hopefully proactively address them before they got too bad. But nothing worked. I want to say, I don't know, maybe I tried like 3 or 4 different kinds of meds and none of them were working. So this is like months and months of trialing these drugs and not feeling good. And it was crazy. And it kind of all came to a head with the worst episode of all. I don't know if you remember this.
I remember this day like it was yesterday.
So I woke up in the morning, headache, driving to work. I felt the pain getting worse and worse. I wasn't someone who would get a ton of like you can sometimes see like stars or kind of things can go black and sparkly or light will bother you. It really didn't bug me too much. I'm driving to work. I'm just almost getting to the thruway. And it was like I was seeing like stars, like it was all sparkly. And then it started going black. And I'm like, what is happening? Happening? I'm driving. So I safely pull over. And luckily it was right before I got on the thruway. So there was like the area where you can, what do they call it? Park and ride or something? I don't know. But so I pulled over there. I called my teammate, Heather. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but you got to let the office know. I need a sub. I cannot see. And the pain in my head is so bad, I can't keep driving. Yep. So she's like, what can I do? I'm like, you know what? I'll call Sean. You just take care of school for me. And we've shouted at our coworkers before. This just goes back to the amazing coworkers we have. And my teamie, my Heather, she just like rolled in, got me a sub, made me sub plan so I could just take care of me. And we'll always be grateful for those moments. So then I call Sean. I'm like, something is terribly wrong. Like I've never experienced this with a migraine ever. And I, at this point, have been getting migraines for years. So he came and met me. I couldn't drive my car. We left my car on the side of the road. And he took me to my primary care doctor. And she gave me some, I think a shot of a steroid. She gave me some shots to kind of help get me back to baseline. I did not need to go to the hospital for this, which was great. They were able to kind of treat me in the office. But after that, I talked with my neurologist and they referred me to the headache center. And we are very lucky living here in Rochester to have a headache center. Yep. And people will drive from all across the state, sometimes other states, to come to Rochester for this headache center. And they literally specialize on helping you manage your chronic headaches and migraines. It's like amazing when you walk in.
Say the Lauren thing. It was
life-changing. I also kind of glorious.
Yes, I love it. Both words.
So you just like walk in, and if you can visualize, there are like these beautiful recliners and the lights are dim and they're small, like it's almost like a spa, but you're at the doctor's office. And it's just an amazing, amazing space. And nurses and doctors are incredible. They offer you like drinks and, well, not cocktail drinks, but like juice. And
that would be nice. Hey, you have a migraine? Here's a glass of wine. Here's a glass of wine.
And just like a cozy warm blanket and ice packs. And they just attend to you when you're there getting your whatever treatment, plan is for you. So when I was there, my neurologist at the headache center gave me the option of Botox injections. And for Botox, people get it to get rid of their lines.
Right.
I also have had it in my sphincter.
In your esophagus sphincter.
My esophagus sphincter, not to be confused with the other sphincter. If you remember, we only have 2 of those. Remember the time I was like, all your sphincters. Nope, only have 2.
Hopefully we're right about this, Bob. Someone's going to be like, actually, there's like 7 sphincters in your body.
See, again, we're not medical professionals, right?
Yeah, we just go off of what we know.
Right, exactly. So at this point, I was not looking to get Botox, obviously, for cosmetic reasons, but it has been used to treat migraines. So insurance will only cover it if you try 2 to 3 other options and they fail. So this was approved by the FDA in 2010. And when I was going through all this, I think it was about 2016, 2017. And basically how Botox helps is it's injected around pain fibers that are involved in headaches. And the Botox enters the nerve endings around where it is injected, and it blocks the release of chemicals involved in pain transmission. And then it prevents activation of pain networks in the brain. So basically Botox prevents migraine headaches before they start. And that's the goal. That's what we were trying to achieve here.
Being proactive, not reactive.
Right. But it takes time to work.
Yeah.
So at this point, I was willing to do whatever. I'm like, sure, a bunch of needles. And it's like in your back, in your shoulders, in your neck, in the back of your head, behind your ears, and at the top of your head. So there's just different areas where they're putting it at those pain points. And I was ready to do it. I'm like, I'll give it a whirl. But patience was key. I had to be patient because, I knew that if it was going to work, it could take up to 2 rounds. So when you get Botox, it lasts for 3 months. And then once it wore off, I would have to go back again and get another round of Botox. So after 2 rounds, so this is 6 months later, I finally got my migraines under control. And now I only get 1 to 2 during my period, which those hormonal migraines, I take oral packs, I respond, quickly. And then sometimes I will get another 1 or 2 days before my appointment. Just the Botox is wearing off. And, as soon as I get the Botox again, it's almost like my muscles are in a war with the Botox, but the Botox wins.
So I forget, you said what year you started getting the Botox in. This was in 2016.
Like 2016, 2017, right around there.
You're still getting them. So that just goes to show you're still really engaging in those preventative measures.
Right, exactly. And it's like, and what I love about the Headache Center is that when you go, you take a quiz. For any of you who have ever had, migraines, you take the headache quiz and they rate how I'm feeling, how I'm doing. They reevaluate, is this still the right treatment for me? What are my rescue meds if I do have one? They're just so absolutely thorough. It really is wonderful. And I love my doctors there. So for me, it works. And here I am now, and still doing it. And I will continue to do it as long as it works. So.
But don't you have another strategy for your migraines?
Yes. What do you mean? When I get my, yes, that's what I was just going to go to next. I was just looking because I feel like I left something, a main serious impact or tool that would help me was going to physical therapy.
Yep.
So my neurologist also referred me there. And basically I go to physical therapy once a week and they will do massage therapy essentially on my neck and shoulder. She will do manual work and kind of just basically massaging the muscles to help relax them so that blood can flow and prevent those headaches. And when I don't go to PT, I will feel it start to get really tight and I will feel the spike in, headaches and the frequency of them. So really, it's not just the Botox. It's also paired with physical therapy.
It's the combination.
Right. And honestly, what can be really frustrating is that certain insurance companies will only give you X amount of visits for physical therapy. And usually for a normal human, you go to physical therapy after you have an injury or surgery, right? And it's usually a short-term experience to help you get into a better spot. And then you're usually discharged. For me, I'm a lifer. They have tried so many other things for me to kind of stop at physical therapy, do exercises. I've seen orthopedic surgeons. It's not something you can do surgery on my shoulder and neck. Right. The muscles just get crazy tight. And it's not like there's another option out there. And to be honest, I don't mind going to physical therapy. I have an amazing provider who does fantastic work. I
Yeah.
always feel better. And I get it done, and I'm a PT for lifer.
Yeah.
My insurance did run out at the end of this year, though, which was a little frustrating. And I went from having to pay $15 a visit to $185 a visit.
But you advocated the crap out of.
I did. I was like, no. So I had my doctor write a letter. My neurologist wrote a letter to the insurance company. So did my physical therapist. We presented it to them. And I got denied once.
Yep.
I went back with some more documentation from both my neurologist, primary care, and physical therapist, and they denied me again. And the last letter I got said that I could go, if I wanted to appeal this further, I would appeal it directly to the state. And if any of you know me well, when I get something in my head,
You do not stop.
I will not stop. And you know what do I have to lose? It's just gathering more paperwork and sending it. And the best thing that can come out of it is I can get refunded some of that money that I ended up spending, you know? So I think it's important to educate yourself on the steps you need to take. And I called Blue Cross Blue Shield a bunch of times, and they gave me the steps, and they really were wonderful every time I talked to them and very supportive. But there's a team of medical doctors at the insurance company that made that decision to deny me. So now I'm going to the state. So we'll see what the state says.
And you know what? I think the main message is just don't give up, because a lot of people would have hit that and been like, oh, this is too much work and given up on it. But don't give up on it. When it comes to your health, you continue that fight until you win that fight, because you're the one living with those symptoms.
And sometimes it's just a matter of explaining and breaking down why you're different than most of the other population who go to physical therapy, for example, for that short-term experience. And it's very rare to be a PT for lifer. And at one point I remember saying to my neurologist, am I really going to be PT for life? She's like, yes, like there's no reason to do surgery. You don't want to be injecting anything else into your body. And this is just a kind of a safe and effective way that works. So, so that is my migraine story. And I do want to end with a quote today.
I love it. I love a Lauren quote.
So I feel like quotes just help me. This is a quote by C.S. Lewis. And C.S. Lewis wrote the Chronicles of Narnia.
Yep.
Have you read it?
Of course.
Of course, me too. And the quote is, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. And I was like, I love that spin on it, because sometimes you can feel like these hardships can be debilitating, and why me, and get low and get down, and just honestly, you can become in a depressed state, right?
Yep.
We've both been there. But when I have a quote like that and I have it at the forefront of my mind, it just inspires me. It fuels me. It encourages me. And it reminds me that, I can get through this, and I will get through this. And sometimes I'll put them on the fridge or write them on the mirror in our bathroom. Sean's like, what's the quote of the week today? Or what's this cryptic number message you have on the mirror? Because when you constantly remind your brain of what is possible, that you can get through this and you will, I feel like you do,
And it's funny that you bring that up, because I sent you a quote today when I was going back and looking through my notes about abdominal migraines. When I went through that experience, you had Connor send me a video. And in the video, he says, Aunt Room, if you can dream it, you can do it. And that, honestly, his little message really did help me get through my hard time.
And that when he was little, I had the quote with a Mickey Mouse on it. It said that exact quote. And he would always end it with, baby. You can dream it, you can do it, baby. And it was so cute. His little 3-year-old self giving inspiration.
I know, always. Always lifting me up.
It is. So, and those quotes can transfer to all ages.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. Adult, children alike.
Whatever you got to do to get through. If it's a quote, if it's a song, I know there are certain songs, depending on what kind of day I'm having, that I'll sing in my head. If it's a bad day, but I make it through, I know Elton John, I'm Still Standing, is always in my head. I'm like, I'm still standing better than I ever have. Sometimes you need that to pump you up.
You do, and it raises your energy level, right? Which we've talked about before. It's a great strategy. All right.
Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in today. As always, we really appreciate any likes, follows, and reviews wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And of course, you can find us at I've Got Guts Podcast on Instagram and Facebook, which we've been really up in our social media games. So you should go check out some of the tips we're sharing there. We'll be coming at you with some live videos now that we can officially do live.
Yeah, it's exciting. And please feel free to email us at I've Got Guts Podcast at gmail.com. We just actually got a really wonderful shout out in our email from an old coworker of mine, and it was just so refreshing and nice to hear from her. So we really appreciate those emails. So don't hesitate to reach out to us anywhere.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.